Hey guys, it's your boy Aijalon Wallace. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to start your staffing agency as a beginner. If you guys don't know me by now, my name is Aijalon Wallace. I'm a nomad recruiter. I travel the world for a living and I make placements. I've been recruiting and doing staffing for the last 10 plus years. And I actually have an academy called Nomad Recruiters Academy. You can check out the links below, where I do have over 1,000 students and I have a lot of testimonials and reviews of helping a lot of people get their staffing and recruiting agency off of the ground. So if you're looking to get started, book a call a day with me. So let's get into it. Let's get into this video. It's going to be a long one. So I do advise you get your notepads, get your pens, turn off your phones, go get your popcorn. I need you to get serious about this because this year, 2024, I want you guys to make money. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. All right, guys. So look, let's get into it. We're going to start off with talking about your LLC and your S Corp. Now, these are basic things you can do online. You can go get your EIN online, and I would advise you to speak to one of your local accountants to see what benefits will be better for you for your business when it comes to getting a LLC or S Corp. This is something that, I'm not an accountant. It's not something I could talk about. Only reason I advise you to look into getting an LLC or S Corp is because we'll be able to benefit for the tax write-offs as you start bringing on a lot of expenses for your staffing agency in the future. Now, I want to talk to you about staffing niches. Often I'm getting 1,000 calls a week and everyone's calling me about healthcare nurse staffing. And the thing about, the staffing space, there are a lot of industries in staffing besides just healthcare and nursing. You have staffing in the insurance space, the technical software engineering space, the sales space, and so many other industries. Also, what I often find when people reach out to me about staffing, they often think that it just refers to nursing. You can staff a whole hospital, or you also can work on permanent and direct hire roles. So I try to explain the difference between staffing and recruiting to a lot of people, because often I find that when I'm having phone calls with a lot of new prospects, they get staffing and recruiting confused. So, what is staffing? Staffing focuses on contract and temporary roles, where recruiting focuses on direct hire and permanent positions. So, when you work on a direct hire or permanent role, you are helping a client find a candidate, and you're pretty much, it's a one and done deal. Once you find a candidate, the candidate goes through the interview for a permanent direct hire. That candidate now works for the company you were employed. You were helping them source for the role. So that candidate that you helped found is a full-time employee under that organization, under that company that you source for. Now, when you're doing staffing, it's different because you own the candidate. The contractor or candidate is registered under your staffing agency. So that means that you're responsible for that candidate. And oftentimes, if you're responsible for a contractor or candidate, it may require you to have insurances. And that is why it's a need for insurances when people specialize in staffing. There is no need for insurances for direct hire or permanent positions because you are selling off that candidate directly to the client. So I want to help you understand that. If you are looking or struggling with getting insurance, it may be a better opportunity to focus on direct hire and permanent roles because no insurance is required. You have to do, what I try to advise people is do what's going to help you get started the fastest way at the end of the day. So when it comes to niches within the healthcare space, you have your healthcare, you have your travel nurses, you have so many, you have your LPNs, your LVNs, you got a lot of different niches, a lot of niches that are growing. And also within those niches, they have staffing and both permanent positions. But when I try to talk to people about looking in the healthcare space or hospitals, you have one floor, you have nurses, you have your second floor, you have salespeople, then your third, you have your executives, you have your computer team on the fourth floor. When people go into a hospital, all they see often is just the ER floor. They're not looking at the other 10 floors with all the different niches and organizations within them. What I try to tell people is, well, the higher the demand, or the more people you have working in your niche, the more competitive it can be sometimes. If you are looking at getting into nursing, within a nursing space, you may have a lot of high competition. And if you don't have the time or the energy to move fast or recruit full time, you may need to hire a VA, a virtual assistant, to help you out, or bring on a partner to help you with your agency, or potentially look at another niche that a lot of people are now looking at, where it's going to be less competition and an easier route for you to get started. So niches that are really in demand at the moment that I'm seeing within the staffing space, I'm seeing cybersecurity growing, technical sales, software engineering, the cannabis space, insurance, accounting, blockchain, and the metaverse as well, metaverse technologies as well. So I'm seeing a lot of the areas in this space growing on both the staffing and permanent side as well. Now, there are two different types of staffing as well, which I try to explain to people. There's a part of staffing where people work with a EOR company or a payroll provider. And that could be an employment of record company or a payroll company. But sadly enough, there are a lot of companies that have scammed a lot of students, and they take advantage of a lot of students, sadly, and they really don't know who they should be working with. And we do have our own partner inside of Nomad Recruiters Academy. We have our own provider that works with our students to help them with closing their clients. So they provide you with contracts, background checks, all free of charge when you work through the Nomad Recruiters Academy program. Now, on the other end, you have it where people do staffing and they want to actually own the licenses themselves and insurances themselves. If you want to start a staffing agency and you want your agency to own the insurance, you want to own your licenses, then you're going to find yourself spending anywhere from five, 10, even $20,000, depending on the license and insurance you need, because it varies by state, just as taxes varies by states as well when it comes to the rates that you may be charging also. So I really want to break this down for you guys just to really help you out and make sure you have a good, thorough understanding as well. Because we're gonna be talking. So I hope you guys are taking notes. So guys, let's talk about your website for the staffing space. If you're specializing in contract, temporary staffing, you want your website to highlight that. You don't have to have a full, complete, Facebook or Google website, but you need to have the basics on there. I would definitely recommend you have the about us, your services, who you are. And if you can't add a job board, I would highly encourage it. If you don't know how to do it, you can go on platforms like Wix, WordPress, or Canva and get those websites made for you. And you also can hire a freelancer on Fiverr or Upwork for as little as $50 to $100 to do some coding for you as well. It depends on the person, but of course you have to look at the reviews and do thorough research. You don't need the job board as soon as you start. It's not a priority, but I would encourage you to get one, after your first one or two deals, when you get your staffing agency off of the ground. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to fees, this is a really tough topic to talk about because fees can vary in staffing dependent on the states, and rates can vary as well. Often, these are not conversations that you want to be having with your candidate because you don't want your candidate to know how much you're making from that client, but it depends on the role and the niche you're working in. But sometimes in your healthcare positions, depending on the position, you may be getting paid, you may be charging a client, you would be charging a client directly a fee and paying your candidate and taking your fee on top of what you're charging from the client. So hypothetically, let's just say you're charging a client $75 an hour, and you're paying your LPN $15 or $20 an hour. You would be in a position to pocket the rest of the money. Now, the thing about the rest of the money, you still have to pay taxes on it, but on top of that, sometimes you may need to use the money down the line if your candidate potentially is looking for other opportunities. And this is something we can talk more about often. We talk more about it inside the program, inside the course. This is not an industry for somebody who has no recruiting or staffing experience to just go out and do it themselves. You will struggle and you will fail. And I strongly encourage you to get a coach. You don't have to choose me as a coach, but if you want to choose me, you can book a call down below in the links. But I want hungry people. I want people who don't make excuses, who are not a lazy. I don't have the time. I already have hundreds of calls. So if you're going to book a call with me, I want you to be serious about taking action and getting started. But I would encourage you to get a coach, because if you don't have a consistent strategy on how to find clients, you may find yourself struggling with a few things. Excuse me. All right, so learning how to source. So in the staffing space, often platforms and websites that you can use that can teach you how to source are going to be Indeed. You have nurse.com. If you're specializing in healthcare staffing, often I do see a lot of nurses using Facebook groups as well. And you have your LinkedIn recruiter and your sales navigator as well. There's a lot of different platforms that you can utilize. That's why it's important to do market research to understand what type of websites the people in your niche are using. That will save you a lot more time and a lot more money. And you have to find ways and routes to go about that. And these are strategies that we do teach inside of Nomad Recruiters Academy. So going back into the how to qualify candidates. So it's important to understand what type of questions you need to be asking your staffing candidates, when you are sourcing for them. You want to be understanding their notice period. You want to understand their location. You want to make sure they're in the same state that you're recruiting for. Because if they're not in the same state or country you're recruiting for, you need to make sure that you already have your client's permission to be to work to, I guess, to transfer candidates or transport candidates from a different state to state as well. You want to make sure that there's a budget for travel, because if it's not, your candidate may not leave. But sometimes candidates are willing to pay on their own as well. It just depends on the situation. You want to also be making sure that the salary matches up to the candidate's expectations. If a client says they only have 75,000 and a candidate wants 150, it may save you time not to work with this candidate. Sometimes you can negotiate with the candidate and try to bring them down, but often if someone's ballpark is already that high, they could be around a similar range. And then you wouldn't want to put a candidate through a 4-round interview process and then they don't accept the offer. And you definitely don't want to waste your client time, because that can also, sadly enough, ruin your credibility with the client. Reputation is extremely important, and rumors spread fast about you depending on your locations when it comes to your agency. So you don't want to ruin or have any bad bridges, especially when it comes to clients. You just don't want to have it. Same with candidates as well. Now, some recruiting software tools often we're starting to see a lot of people use it. It's tools like Lucia, Swordfish.ai. We're seeing them use HubSpot and Salesforce, and a lot of different CRM platforms as well. One thing I want to mention about CRMs and also ATSs is that I would strongly encourage you not to spend so much capital on too many software tools if you don't need them in the earlier stages. You can find yourself wasting a lot of money before bringing on your first deal, having too many software tools starting off. You only need a good 3 or 4 to get started before you start having 10 or 15 different software tools, and it starts taking away money out of your budget and your capital, because a good portion, or I want to say almost 80% of your funds are going to be used on ads. And you're going to have to use ads for Indeed and LinkedIn, especially when it comes to your sourcing as well. So going back to some of the software tools, Lucia and Swordfish.ai. So these are tools pretty much that you can use to find names and numbers when you're trying to reach out to candidates and when you're trying to reach out to clients. These are also tools that you can use to find a lot of information about the candidate client. Sometimes their addresses, their location, their Facebook pages as well. Guys, do remember that you're using this information for business purposes, okay? And the goal is to reach out to the candidate to see if they're open for a new job market. You should not be using this for anything else, because now you will be considered creepy. All right. So you want to make sure you utilize these platforms to reach out to candidates at the end of the day. My favorite software tool that I love recommending to a lot of people is a platform called True People Search. It's a free platform that gives you names and numbers of some of the candidates that you may be looking up in your area. It also gives you their addresses. So when you're hiring for a position, you have to take initiative in our space, especially as agency recruiters. Also, sense of urgency is extremely important within a staffing space, even more than direct hire recruiting, but I would express it for both recruiting and staffing, but I would express that sense of urgency is even more of a important thing in staffing. If a candidate reaches out to you or applies to one of your job ads, it's extremely important that you get back in touch with them within that hour, within few hours, within the same day, because another recruiter may have already reached out to them and already sent their resume on the phone by the time, if you wait to the end of the day or if you wait a couple days to contact that candidate. That's how fast a lot of recruiters and competitors move in our industry. And then you will be in a situation where you just spent all this money on ads, and sadly enough, you just lost a candidate that could have got you that 10 or 20K deal. So it's a lot of potential and a lot of money to make in the staffing space, just as it's a lot of money to make in the direct hire space. One thing I want to say for a lot of people getting into the contract or staffing world is that often you don't really see real potential or a good amount of portion of money until you get that 15th or 20th contractor. That's when you really start seeing the type of money, you start seeing those 20K, 30K checks a month when you get up there. Now, the thing about staffing, it is a business and an industry that is based on not having loyalty. So it's based on not being loyal. So people consistently jump from job to job every 6 months, sometimes within a week. And it's very acceptable as well. People often jump for the most money. So it's extremely important that you qualify your candidates to make sure that they're not going to be jumping every week or every 3 months, because what can happen is when you're working in a staffing space, you have a person going through a background check, you have them going through a 4 round or 3 round interview process, you're drafting up their resumes, you're getting the contracts over, you're getting them started, they did a 2 week notice. This process is probably taking almost 4 to 6 weeks or even more. And this is time equity. This is something you cannot get back. And sadly, if they leave, you have to repeat the process all over again. And you have to do the same thing for direct hire or permanent. But I feel like in a staffing space, the thing about it is more acceptable in a staffing space, as it's not as acceptable in a direct hire space as well. The reason why I'm talking to you about staffing, this video is about staffing, but I'm highlighting the benefits of working in full-time direct hire is because often what I found or what I see is a lot of people want to get into the staffing space, but they usually never get started because of how complicated it can be. And I try to explain to people, well, how about you just go get your first 1 or 2 deals in a permanent position? That way you have capital to help back you when you start focusing on the staffing space as well. So that's the option as well. But do also remember that there are a lot of permanent roles within the staffing space and also within the healthcare space as well. But there are a lot of other niches within staffing to highlight that you can do staffing for a lot of fields: construction, IT, accounting, technical, sales. The sky's the limit when it comes to the niche, also in the staffing space. But some niches you may see a more higher demand of direct hire jobs as well. Another platform that I recommend a lot of people to use when they're getting their staffing agency off the ground, it's going to be a platform called LinkedIn Recruiter. Sorry, guys, a lot of talking. So LinkedIn Recruiter is a really great tool to utilize, because the reason why it's so different from Indeed or Dice or Monster or Career Builder is you're able to see your candidate's face. And presentation is everything. Sometimes, if you're interviewing someone and their profile, they're dressed like a surfer or they don't have a picture, you have to understand that your client is going to view that person's profile. And if it's a bad reputation, that also can represent you and your agency, and it can hurt you and hurt your candidate as well. It's also good to put a face to a name because sometimes we want to make sure that the candidate is a good culture fit. Sometimes, putting a younger person in a much more older methodology, a waterfall methodology, it may not be a good fit. So sometimes you have to read the room and read the culture and make sure the candidate will be a good fit for the client because they may not stay within their guarantee. Now, often in the staffing space, staffing agencies don't really have guarantees, but direct hire permanent placements have guarantee. And if you guys don't know what a guarantee is, let me explain it to you. So, a guarantee is when you guarantee a client that the candidate that you hire, that you put into their job, you guarantee that they're going to stay in that job for a minimum of 30, 60, or 90 days. And if they don't stay in that job for 30, 60, or 90 days, you would have to either refund the money, the recruiter fee that you got back, or you have to give them a free replacement. Now, that's for direct hire recruiting, but in the staffing space, you just have to start over. You're not getting paid, and you have to go back to the market and try to find someone else. And depending on how much time and how long it takes, and then the competition as well. So that's something to consider as well when you are looking at, sourcing for both the staffing and recruiting side of things. Now, I want to explain to people that there's something called a 360 recruiter or a 360 staffing recruiter. And they're more so, these are terms that are recognizable with agency recruiters. So I was an agency recruiter. I worked for 2 agencies during my time in Australia. You guys know this already. Man, I've been recruiting for my own agency for a long time now. But an agency recruiter, pretty much, we kill what we eat. We have to go on a hunt our own food. We got to go find our own clients. We got to find our own candidates. We have to do the sourcing. We have to do the business development. We have to do it all. Now, you have your human resources, you have your talent acquisition, you have your recruiting coordinators, where they more so may just focus. They're working internally for like a Facebook, an Amazon, a LinkedIn. So they don't really have to do business development, and they're working directly for their company. They also may not even be doing sourcing for candidates. They could be doing more admin work. It just depends on the level of their position. But the positions are very different. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that there are different types of recruiters. You have your agency recruiters, and then you have your in-house recruiters. What you guys are looking to do, you're looking to become agency recruiters because you have to go out and try to find your own clients and do your own business development. So you would be considered an agency recruiter, at the end of the day. So how do you find clients in the staffing space? Now, that's the big question as well. I want to say, one strategy. Sorry, guys. One strategy you can use when trying to find staffing clients is seeing the demand. Where's the demand at in your location? You can look at previous jobs that were recently posted. You could try to see the demand of how many people are trying to hire for those roles, or how long have job positions been up and available. Potentially that client may need more help with sourcing for that position. So if you see a job ad that was up for a few weeks, it could be a good sign and a red flag, but it could be a good flag or green flag because maybe they're struggling to hire for that position due to the location. It could be a red flag because maybe they're struggling to hire for that location due to the reputation of the company. Maybe due to rumors, maybe due to the pay not being enough as well. It could be a lot of things. So sometimes it could be good, sometimes it could be bad, but this is a great business development opportunity, and you just have to try it out. There are multiple BD opportunities at the end of the day. You have your automations, you have your business development calls. There's so many different strategies. One thing I will say, and the reason I recommend you guys to get a coach is because a lot of things you can learn online, but you're going to need a mentor to teach you how to consistently find clients. If you don't have a strategy that shows you how to consistently find clients, it's no point in getting in our industry or our field. So this is what I do with Nomad Recruiters Academy, where I help a lot of my students scale to 6 to 7 figures. And you guys can check out the website at nomadrecruiters.com. I have real names, real testimonials, and most importantly, you know my slogan: there's no Lambos, there's no mansions here at the end of the day. I'm always looking for hard, hungry people who are looking to make multiple streams of income and take action on their life. It's extremely important. The staffing industry is a $400 billion industry, and it's endless opportunities to get into the staffing and the recruiting space right now. What I love about this industry so much is that often you see a lot of people doing e-commerce, everyone's doing Amazon FBA, everyone's doing crypto and trading, but a lot of people are sleeping on the recruiting space and the staffing space, and there's so many opportunities. You want to be the person that's on the other side of the coin. You don't want to be the person getting let go. You want to be the person giving jobs and opportunities away. And there's so many great benefits in helping people, secure a job. You're helping people bring more money in for their families, but also you're making good money at the same time. The money potential is endless as opportunities. And the great thing about staffing is residual income. You're making money in your sleep. Every day your candidate goes to work, you're making money. But also with direct hire, you're making one-off deals for 20, 30K, and you're moving on to the next job. The benefits are endless at the end of the day. Guys, I do make a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about recruiting and staffing. I have over 600 videos on my channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment below, let me know some other topics you want me to talk about. Definitely book a call with me if you want to get your staffing or recruiting agency off of the ground. Check out the links below. I got some ebooks for you that are on sale and were quite affordable. And I also got a nice little workshop that can help you get started that you can check out as well. Check out nomadrecruiters.com, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Thanks again.